The morning started like any other at the military training facility. Soldiers were already deep into their routines, running drills, practicing formations, and pushing their physical limits. But there was an unusual excitement in the air that day. Word had spread that a special guest was visiting the base, martial arts expert and action film legend Steven Seagal. Some soldiers were excited, remembering the action movies they grew up watching. Others were simply curious to see how a Hollywood star would fit into a real military environment. When Seagal arrived, he greeted everyone calmly, showing respect to the officers and trainees. He didn't come with arrogance or celebrity attitude. Instead, he observed training sessions quietly, occasionally nodding in appreciation of the soldiers' discipline and effort. However, not everyone was impressed. Among the instructors, for highly trained army trainers watched Seagal from a distance. To them, movie fighting and real combat were two completely different worlds. They respected martial arts, but they doubted that someone famous for films could handle real military-trained professionals. Soon, their quiet skepticism turned into a challenge. One of the instructors approached Seagal with a polite but confident smile. He suggested a friendly demonstration, a simple strength and control test in front of the trainees. Nothing aggressive, just a chance to see how effective Seagal's techniques really were against experienced military instructors. The surrounding soldiers immediately sensed tension. Some whispered, wondering if the movie star would accept or politely refuse. After all, declining would be understandable. Military instructors train daily for real-world scenarios. But Seagal didn't hesitate. He calmly smiled and agreed, saying he was happy to participate as long as it remained respectful and safe. His relaxed tone surprised many watching. There was no ego, no attempt to prove anything. Just quiet confidence. And sometimes, that quiet confidence hides years of discipline and experience people cannot see. Moments like this remind us how often people judge others based on appearance or reputation, without knowing the work behind the scenes. The trainees quickly gathered around, sensing they were about to witness something unusual. If you were in Steven Seagal's position, would you accept this challenge or walk away to avoid risk? Share your opinion in the comments. Because what happened next ended the entire test in just 9 seconds. Within minutes, news of the upcoming demonstration spread across the training facility. Soldiers wrapped up their drills faster than usual, and small groups began gathering near the training mat where the test would take place. Some trainees climbed onto nearby benches for a better view, while others quietly took out their phones, ready to record what they expected would be an entertaining moment. At the center of it all stood Steven Seagal, calm and composed, stretching lightly as if preparing for a routine training session rather than a public challenge. Across from him, the 4 army instructors looked confident. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were professionals responsible for preparing troops for high-pressure combat situations. Strong, disciplined, and highly trained, they were used to dominating physical confrontations. One instructor stepped forward and explained the challenge clearly for everyone watching. The goal was simple. They would attempt to restrain or overpower Seagal in a controlled scenario, testing his balance, strength, and reaction. It wasn't meant to be violent, just a friendly demonstration to see how movie martial arts compared to military training. The crowd murmured with excitement. Many soldiers expected the instructors to win easily. After all, real military training involved endurance, combat conditioning, and teamwork. Hollywood action scenes, on the other hand, were often seen as carefully choreographed illusions. Seagal listened carefully, nodding as the rules were explained. When asked if he was comfortable proceeding, he simply replied, "As long as everyone stays safe, I'm fine with it." His relaxed tone stood in contrast to the growing intensity around him. Watching from the sidelines, some senior officers observed quietly, curious to see how the situation would unfold. Even they seemed unsure what to expect. Moments like this often reveal an interesting truth. Confidence sometimes turns into overconfidence. And sometimes, the quietest person in the room carries the most experience, because they don't feel the need to prove themselves loudly. As the instructors prepared, stretching their arms and discussing their approach, soldiers in the crowd began debating the outcome. Some believed raw strength and military teamwork would overpower any martial arts technique. Others wondered if Seagal's years of training in Aikido might surprise everyone. Before the demonstration began, let's ask you something. Tell us in the comments, which country and city are you watching from right now? It's always amazing to see how viewers from around the world come together for moments like this. And here's another question. Do you think martial arts techniques seen in movies actually work in real-life situations, or are they only effective on screen? Share your opinion below. Back on the mat, the instructors took their positions. One soldier joked confidently with his teammates, earning a few laughs from the crowd. The mood felt light, but the tension underneath was growing. Seagal, meanwhile, simply rolled his shoulders once, breathing slowly, his expression unchanged. There was no sign of nervousness, no attempt to intimidate anyone. Just patience. And sometimes, patience is the most dangerous advantage of all. Within seconds, the signal would be given, and the test would begin. No one in that room realized how quickly everything was about to change. The training hall grew unusually quiet as everyone sensed the demonstration was about to begin. Soldiers who had been whispering moments earlier now focused completely on the mat. Phones were raised, recording from every angle. Some trainees even held their breath, expecting a tough physical contest between trained army instructors and the famous martial artist standing calmly in the center. One of the instructors stepped forward first. He was broad-shouldered, confident, and clearly used to dominating physical engagements. With a quick nod to signal readiness, he moved toward Seagal, planning to grab and restrain him using standard military control techniques. The moment he lunged forward, many expected Seagal to struggle or brace himself for impact. But something unexpected happened. Instead of resisting with force, Seagal shifted his body slightly, almost casually. Using the instructor's own momentum, he redirected the movement, guiding him off balance. In less than a second, the instructor found himself controlled and forced safely to the mat without Seagal appearing to use much strength at all. A loud murmur spread through the crowd. The instructor quickly stood up, surprised more than hurt. He hadn't expected to lose balance so easily. Some soldiers laughed nervously, unsure whether what they had just seen was luck or real technique. Trying to recover the situation, the second instructor immediately stepped in, determined not to let the demonstration slip out of their control. He approached more cautiously, attempting to secure Seagal's arm and apply pressure. Again, Seagal moved smoothly, almost lazily, turning his body just enough to break the grip. In one fluid motion, the second instructor also lost balance and was guided harmlessly to the ground. This time, the silence in the hall felt heavier. The crowd was no longer amused, they were confused. The instructors were trained professionals. Seeing them neutralized so quickly without visible effort challenged everyone's expectations. You could feel the energy in the room shift. Moments like this remind us of something important. Strength alone doesn't guarantee victory. Technique, timing, and understanding movement can completely change the outcome of a confrontation. Now the remaining two instructors exchanged looks. Losing individually was one thing, but being embarrassed in front of trainees was another. Determined to regain control, they decided to engage together. The crowd leaned forward, sensing the real test was about to happen. Before we continue, think about this. At this moment, who do you believe will win? For trained army instructors working together, or one martial arts master relying on technique? Comment your guess before watching further. Back on the mat, both instructors moved in at the same time. One attempted to grab Seagal from behind while the other reached for his arm, hoping teamwork would overpower technique. For the first time, the movement looked chaotic. Yet Seagal remained calm. He stepped slightly to the side, guiding one instructor's movement into the other's path. Their combined momentum worked against them. Within seconds, both struggled to maintain balance as Seagal redirected their force, keeping control without striking or showing aggression. Gasps erupted across the hall. Several soldiers exchanged stunned looks. Others lowered their phones in disbelief, trying to process what they were seeing. No punches. No wrestling struggle. Just smooth, controlled movements neutralizing trained soldiers. One trainee whispered, "How is he doing that?" Another simply shook his head. Even the instructors now realized they were facing something they hadn't expected. Their strength and training weren't enough against someone who understood leverage and balance at a deeper level. The tension in the room continued rising. Some soldiers began cheering quietly, impressed by the display of technique. Others stood in complete silence, studying every movement. Seagal, meanwhile, showed no sign of pride or excitement. His breathing remained steady. His face calm. As if this demonstration were nothing more than another training session. And yet, everyone present understood something unusual was unfolding. The instructors prepared themselves for another attempt, determined not to give up so easily. But what happened next would force the entire demonstration to stop sooner than anyone expected. By now, the entire training hall felt different. What had started as a light-hearted demonstration had turned into a tense and unforgettable moment. Soldiers who had originally gathered for entertainment were now watching with serious attention. The instructors, once relaxed and confident, were beginning to feel the pressure of the unexpected situation unfolding in front of them. The two instructors who had just been controlled stepped back, clearly surprised by how effortlessly their attacks had been redirected. Their teammates helped them up, and for a brief moment, all four instructors gathered together, quietly discussing their next move. None of them wanted to appear defeated in front of their trainees. Around the mat, whispers spread through the crowd. "Did you see that? He barely moved. Was that even strength, or just technique?" Phones were still recording, capturing every second. Some soldiers zoomed in, trying to analyze Seagal's footwork and hand movements. Others simply watched, stunned by how calm the entire situation looked despite the tension. Seagal stood patiently, hands relaxed at his sides. There was no sign of mockery or arrogance. He didn't celebrate or taunt anyone. Instead, he looked almost bored, as if he had nothing to prove. This is often what true mastery looks like. The strongest person in the room rarely feels the need to show it. Finally, one of the instructors stepped forward again, determination written across his face. This time, his approach was more aggressive. He attempted to rush in quickly, hoping speed and pressure would finally catch Seagal off guard. But once again, Seagal barely reacted. With a small shift of his stance, he redirected the instructor's force, guiding him past his center of balance. Within moments, the instructor stumbled forward and was controlled without injury. Seagal used minimal force, ensuring the man landed safely. A shocked silence spread through the hall. The laughter from earlier was gone. No one whispered now. Soldiers simply stared, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. It wasn't flashy. There were no dramatic strikes or powerful throws. Everything looked smooth and controlled, almost effortless. And that was exactly what made it impressive. Human nature often expects strength to look loud and aggressive. But real control is quiet. Another instructor tried a different strategy, attempting to grab Seagal's arm and lock him in place. But the moment contact was made, Seagal rotated his wrist and shifted his weight, causing the instructor's grip to collapse instantly. Again, balance disappeared, and again, the instructor found himself safely on the mat. Gasps echoed from the crowd. Some trainees glanced at each other, wide-eyed. Their instructors, the very people responsible for teaching them combat readiness, were being neutralized without apparent effort. Still, Seagal never tried to humiliate them. Each movement ended with the instructor safely released, as if he were simply demonstrating technique in a classroom. Moments like this remind us of an important lesson. The purpose of martial arts is control, not destruction. True skill means ending conflict without unnecessary harm. Watching from the sidelines, senior officers now began exchanging serious looks. What started as a friendly demonstration was becoming an unexpected lesson for everyone present. The four instructors regrouped once more. Sweat was now visible on their faces, not from exhaustion, but from the pressure of the situation. They realized brute force alone wouldn't solve this challenge. Around the mat, soldiers waited, completely silent, eager to see what would happen next. Before we continue, think about this. Do you believe staying calm under pressure is harder than being physically strong? Share your thoughts in the comments. Back in the center, Seagal gently rolled his shoulders and nodded, signaling he was ready again. His breathing remained steady, his posture relaxed. Yet the instructors now hesitated. Confidence had turned into caution. And in that moment, everyone watching understood something important. The outcome of this challenge was already decided. But what happened in the next few seconds would bring the entire test to an unexpected end. By this point, the atmosphere inside the training hall had completely changed. What began as a confident challenge now felt like a lesson unfolding in real time. The soldiers watching were no longer waiting for entertainment. They were witnessing something that challenged their understanding of strength and control. The 4 army instructors regrouped once more near the edge of the mat. Their earlier smiles were gone, replaced by focused expressions. None of them were injured, but their confidence had clearly taken a hit. Being controlled so easily in front of trainees was not something they were used to. Still, pride and professionalism pushed them forward. One instructor, determined to regain some authority, stepped out again. He cracked his neck slightly and rolled his shoulders, preparing for another attempt. This time, his plan was simple: move faster, hit harder, and not give Seagal time to react. The crowd sensed the renewed intensity. Conversations stopped. Phones lifted again. Even the officers watching leaned forward slightly. The instructor charged. For a split second, it looked like his sudden speed might finally catch Seagal off guard. But instead of resisting, Seagal stepped to the side at exactly the right moment, guiding the instructor's force past him. With a subtle shift of his hips and a controlled grip, the instructor's momentum worked against him. Within moments, he was off balance and carefully guided to the mat once again. A collective gasp echoed through the hall. Some soldiers covered their mouths in disbelief. Others shook their heads slowly, realizing what they had just seen. The entire exchange lasted only seconds. The instructor, now visibly frustrated, quickly stood and prepared to try again. But this time, another instructor joined him, unwilling to let the demonstration continue like this. Together, they attempted to corner Seagal, hoping numbers would finally shift the outcome. One reached for his arm while the other tried to secure his shoulders. But once again, Seagal remained calm. He rotated his body smoothly, causing the instructor's movements to collide slightly. Using their own force, he redirected both men away from him, neutralizing the attempt without aggression. It was over almost as soon as it began. And that's when something changed. From the sidelines, a senior officer finally stepped forward, raising his hand. "That's enough," he called out firmly. The hall fell silent. The instructors paused, breathing heavily, realizing the demonstration had officially been stopped. The officer walked onto the mat, looking at both Seagal and the instructors before addressing the gathered soldiers. He explained calmly that the point had already been proven, and there was no need for further attempts that might risk injury or unnecessary embarrassment. Only then did many in the crowd realize something surprising. The entire challenge, from the first engagement to the final stoppage, had lasted barely 9 seconds of actual physical exchange. 9 seconds. All the confidence, preparation, and expectation had collapsed in moments. The instructors stepped back, their expressions now filled with respect rather than competition. One of them even offered Seagal a handshake, acknowledging his skill. Seagal accepted politely, nodding with appreciation. He showed no pride, no desire to celebrate the outcome. To him, it seemed like just another training experience. And perhaps that was the real lesson. Sometimes, the quickest demonstrations teach the strongest lessons. Skill, discipline, and understanding often defeat brute force faster than anyone expects. Around the mat, soldiers slowly began talking again, replaying what they had witnessed in their minds. Some trainees laughed nervously, still shocked. Others discussed the techniques they had seen, trying to understand how simple movements created such powerful results. Before we continue, think about this. Have you ever underestimated someone, only to realize later how wrong you were? Share your experience in the comments. As the crowd started to disperse slightly, one thing was clear to everyone present. The challenge that was supposed to test Steven Seagal had instead taught an unforgettable lesson to the entire room. But the most powerful moment of the day was still about to happen. As the senior officer officially ended the demonstration, the tension that had filled the training hall slowly faded. Soldiers began relaxing, conversations restarting as the reality of what they had just witnessed settled in. The competitive energy that existed moments earlier had now turned into something else: respect. The 4 army instructors stood together near the mat, catching their breath. None of them were injured, but mentally, they had just experienced something humbling. Being controlled so quickly and effortlessly was not something they encountered often. Yet instead of anger or embarrassment, their expressions now carried curiosity and admiration. One of the instructors stepped forward again, this time without any challenge in his posture. Extending his hand, he thanked Seagal for the demonstration. Another instructor nodded in agreement, admitting that they hadn't expected technique to overcome strength so easily. Seagal shook their hands calmly, showing no sign of pride. To him, this wasn't about winning. It was about demonstrating principles he had spent decades studying and practicing. The senior officer then addressed the gathered trainees, using the moment as a lesson. He explained that physical strength and endurance are important in military training, but understanding balance, control, and awareness can be just as powerful in real situations. The soldiers listened carefully. Moments like this reveal an important truth. Real mastery often comes with humility. The strongest people are usually the ones who feel no need to dominate others. After a brief pause, one of the trainees asked Seagal what allowed him to stay so calm under pressure. The entire hall grew quiet again, waiting for his response. Seagal spoke calmly, his voice steady. He explained that martial arts are not about defeating people or proving superiority. Instead, they are about discipline, control, and avoiding harm whenever possible. He emphasized that true training teaches a person to remain calm even when others are aggressive. He added that in many situations, the smartest victory is avoiding conflict entirely. The simplicity of his words surprised many soldiers. They expected complicated techniques or secret methods. Instead, they heard lessons about patience, awareness, and self-control. Watching the instructors and trainees together, it became clear that something important had shifted in the room. What started as a test of strength had become a lesson about discipline and humility. This moment speaks to something many people experience in life. Sometimes, the people who appear strongest are not the ones who fight hardest, but the ones who remain calm when challenged. Before the crowd fully dispersed, let's ask you something. In your opinion, what matters more in real-life confrontations? Physical strength, technical skill, or mental discipline? Share your thoughts in the comments. And here's another question for you. If you were in Steven Seagal's position, would you have accepted this challenge, or avoided it to prevent unnecessary conflict? Tell us what you would do. Back in the training hall, soldiers began approaching Seagal individually, some asking questions, others simply thanking him for the unexpected lesson. The earlier doubts were gone, replaced with curiosity and admiration. Even the instructors who initiated the challenge now seemed grateful for the experience. One joked that they had just learned more in 9 seconds than in several training sessions, earning laughter from those nearby. The atmosphere felt lighter now, almost friendly. What could have become an embarrassing situation instead turned into a shared learning experience. And perhaps that was the most powerful outcome of all. Because true strength is not about proving others wrong, it's about helping everyone become better. As Seagal prepared to leave the mat, many soldiers applauded quietly, not out of excitement, but out of genuine respect. Yet none of them realized that this moment was about to travel far beyond the walls of the training facility. Because someone had recorded everything. And soon, the entire world would see what happened in those 9 unforgettable seconds. By the time the demonstration officially ended and soldiers returned to their regular training routines, many believed the moment would simply remain a memorable story shared among those present. After all, military training facilities host guest instructors and demonstrations regularly. Most of these events are talked about for a few days and then quietly fade into memory. But this time was different. Several soldiers had recorded the entire challenge on their phones. Within hours, short clips began appearing in private group chats and social media pages connected to military communities. Soldiers shared the footage with friends and family, laughing in disbelief at how quickly the situation had unfolded. From there, the clips spread rapidly. Someone uploaded a short video titled, "Army Instructors Try Testing Steven Seagal. Watch What Happens." Within minutes, views began climbing. People replayed the footage repeatedly, trying to understand how trained instructors had been neutralized so quickly without visible force. Soon, the video escaped military circles and reached mainstream social media platforms. Comments flooded in from viewers across the world. Some praised Seagal's calm control. Others debated whether technique truly beats strength. Martial arts enthusiasts analyzed every movement frame by frame, discussing balance, leverage, and timing. Even critics who doubted movie martial arts admitted the demonstration looked impressive. News blogs and online entertainment pages picked up the story. Headlines highlighted how the challenge lasted only seconds before being stopped. Interviews with trainees present that day began circulating online, each describing how unexpected the moment felt in person. And throughout all the attention, one thing stood out: Seagal himself never tried to take credit or exaggerate what happened. He simply described the event as a friendly training demonstration and praised the instructors for their professionalism. Moments like this remind us that respect is earned not through victory alone, but through humility afterward. Back at the training facility, the story became legendary among trainees. New recruits heard about the day 4 instructors tried to test a martial arts master and learned an unforgettable lesson in discipline and control. Some instructors even incorporated parts of what they learned into future training sessions, emphasizing balance and awareness alongside strength training. The 4 instructors involved handled the attention professionally as well. Instead of feeling embarrassed, they openly admitted they underestimated Seagal and encouraged trainees to learn from the experience. In many ways, the entire situation turned into something positive for everyone involved. Because sometimes, the greatest lessons come from moments we don't expect. Before we wrap up, let's ask you something important. Do you believe moments like this prove that humility and discipline are more powerful than raw strength? Share your thoughts in the comments. And think about this. Have you ever witnessed or experienced a situation where someone surprised everyone by staying calm under pressure? Tell us your story below. As weeks passed, the video continued circulating online, gathering millions of views. For many viewers, the story wasn't just about a celebrity demonstration. It became a reminder that true strength often looks quiet and controlled rather than loud and aggressive. In the end, the challenge that was meant to test Steven Seagal's strength ended up teaching a lesson to everyone watching, both inside the training hall and across the world. Discipline matters. Respect matters. And sometimes, 9 seconds are enough to change how people see strength entirely. And as always, the final message remains simple. If you believe people should be respected not for appearance but for their discipline and character, type "respect" in the comments and subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one. Because the next story might surprise you just as much as this one did.